In the village of Enchanting, there was a man named Ugochukwu, who did something strange. While everyone was sad and crying at funerals, Ugochukwu would sing loudly. His songs weren't quiet or sad, they were full of life, like he was celebrating something. The villagers didn't understand it. How could someone sing when people were mourning? Children would hide behind their mothers, and adults would shake their heads in confusion. Some said Ugochukwu had bad spirits with him, while others thought he was mad. But Ugochukwu never explained why he sang. He would just smile and keep walking away. Then, one day, something terrible happened. Elder Is, the wisest and kindest man in Enchanting, passed away. Elder Is had always been there to help the villagers. He gave food to those who were hungry, made peace when people fought, and told the most amazing stories. Everyone loved him, and his passing left the village heartbroken. Plans were quickly made for a big funeral to honor him. But there was something that worried everyone. Would Ugochukwu come to the funeral? And if he did, would he sing? The villagers anxiously waited for the day of the funeral. On the day of the funeral, the villagers gathered under a big tree in the middle of the village. Everyone wore white clothes, and their faces were full of sadness. Elder Isa's family sat at the front, their eyes red from crying, while the priest began the ceremony. The air was thick with sorrow, and no one smiled. Then, just as the priest started to pray, Ugochukwu appeared. He stood at the back of the crowd, wearing his old shirt and sandals, his face calm and peaceful. The villagers froze, unsure of what would happen next. As the priest spoke about Elder Isa's good deeds, Ugochukwu began to sing. His voice was loud and clear, echoing through the crowd like the sound of birds flying in the sky. The mourners stared at him, wide-eyed and confused. Elder Isa's son, Chijioke, stood up, his face red with anger. "How dare you sing at my father's funeral?" he shouted. "What is wrong with you?" The villagers whispered angrily, some asking why Ugochukwu couldn't just stay quiet. But Ugochukwu didn't stop. He sang louder, his voice full of joy, as if he was celebrating something. Chijioke ran towards him, his fist clenched. "Why are you singing when we are mourning?" he demanded. Ugochukwu smiled and wiped his face, his voice still calm. "I am not mocking your father, Chijioke," he said softly. "I sing because I know something you do not." The villagers gasped. "What do you mean?" Chijioke asked, his anger still burning. Ugochukwu shook his head. "You wouldn't understand," he said. Then, without saying another word, he turned and walked away, leaving the village in complete silence. The villagers couldn't stop talking about what had happened. Some said Ugochukwu had lost his mind, while others thought he knew something important. Chijioke, still angry, couldn't let it go. He decided to find out what Ugochukwu meant by his strange words. Before Chijioke could learn anything, tragedy struck again. A young woman named Ifeoma, known for her kindness and sweet smile, suddenly died. The village was heartbroken, and her family was filled with grief. They quickly planned for her funeral, but the villagers couldn't help but wonder. Would Ugochukwu come to the funeral? And if he did, would he sing again? The villagers gathered again for Ifeoma's funeral. The sky was cloudy, and the air felt heavy with sadness. Her family sat at the front, crying softly as the priest said a prayer. Then, just like before, Ugochukwu appeared. He stood at the back, his face unreadable. For a moment, everyone thought he might stay quiet. But as the priest continued, Ugochukwu began to sing again. His voice was loud and strong, and it filled the air, making the mourners uncomfortable. Ifeoma's mother, Neka, stood up, her face full of tears. "Why are you singing at my daughter's funeral?" she screamed. The crowd turned to look at Ugochukwu, shocked and confused. But he did not stop. He sang even louder, his voice almost shaking the ground. Eventually, He stopped, looked at Neka, and said, "I do not sing to make fun of your daughter. I sing because I see something you cannot see." The crowd gasped. "What is it?" someone asked. "I cannot say more," Ugochukwu replied. "But the truth will come out soon." Without saying another word, he walked away, leaving the villagers in even more confusion. Chijioke, who had been watching closely, felt a strong urge to find out the truth behind Ugochukwu's strange actions. He was sure Ugochukwu knew something important. He decided to ask questions and search for answers. As Chijioke asked around, he learned some strange things about Ifeoma's final days. She had started acting differently before her death. She had even told her friends that she had discovered something very important but didn't want to share it with anyone just yet. Chijioke's mind raced. Could Ugochukwu know something about her death too? He had to find out. One evening, Chijioke decided to visit Ugochukwu. The sun was setting, and the village was calm. He found Ugochukwu sitting outside his hut, staring at the sky, humming softly to himself. "Ugochukwu," Chijioke called out, his voice determined. "What do you know about Ifeoma's death? I need to understand why you sing and what you see that we cannot." Ugochukwu turned to him slowly, his eyes serious. "I see the things that the living cannot see, Chijioke," he said softly. "The dead have messages they want to share, but the living are too afraid to listen." Chijioke frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "The spirits of the dead speak to me," Ugochukwu said, "and they have told me the truth about what happened to Ifeoma." "Tell me," Chijioke begged. "What truth? Please, I need to know." Ugochukwu smiled faintly and looked at the sky. "The truth will come to you when you are ready to hear it, Chijioke," he said softly. Chijioke felt a chill run through him. He knew Ugochukwu was right, but he also knew that finding the truth would not be easy. He would have to be brave and listen carefully to what the spirits had to say. The village was full of secrets, and Chijioke was determined to uncover them, no matter how difficult it might be. Chijioke couldn't shake the feeling that Ugochukwu was right. The spirits of the dead had something to tell, but how would he listen? How could he understand what the living couldn't? Determined to find the truth, he spent the next few days asking around about Ifeoma's final moments. He spoke to her closest friends, hoping they had noticed something strange or unusual. One friend, Ngozi, shared something odd. "Ifeoma told me she had seen something by the river," Ngozi said, her voice shaking with the memory. "She said she saw a shadow that followed her, and it wasn't a person. She didn't want to tell anyone, but I could tell she was scared." Chijioke's heart raced. A shadow. Could it be a spirit? He needed to find out more. Later that evening, he went to the river where Ifeoma had spent much of her time. The place was peaceful now, but Chijioke could feel the weight of something hidden beneath the calm water. The sun had set, and the moonlight danced across the ripples. Chijioke knelt by the river, closing his eyes as he tried to focus, hoping to hear what Ugochukwu had heard. Just as he thought he might hear something, he heard a rustle behind him. He turned quickly to find Ugochukwu standing there, as quiet as the night itself. "You came to the river," Ugochukwu said, his voice soft, "but you will not hear the spirits if you are afraid of them." Chijioke stood up, his heart pounding. "I'm not afraid," he said, though his voice wavered slightly. "I need to know the truth about Ifeoma. What did she see? What did she discover?" Ugochukwu studied him carefully. "Ifeoma saw something, yes. But she also knew too much. The spirits of the dead do not rest until their story is told. Some truths are dangerous, Chijioke. Are you ready for them?" Chijioke didn't hesitate. "I have to know. I need to know what happened to her." Ugochukwu nodded, his face solemn. "Very well. Ifeoma was not meant to die so young. She uncovered something that should have remained hidden. She knew about a secret that has been buried in this village for years. What secret? Chijioke asked, his voice barely above a whisper. A secret of betrayal and greed, Ugochukwu replied. Ifeoma's death was no accident. She was silenced because she was close to discovering something that could bring ruin to the villagers. Chijioke felt a chill run down his spine. Who would do such a thing? He asked, his voice trembling. Ugochukwu's eyes darkened. Someone you know, someone close to your family. But you must be careful, Chijioke. The more you dig, the more dangerous it becomes. The guilty will stop at nothing to keep their secrets. Chijioke's mind raced. Someone close to his family. Could it be his uncle? Or someone else in the village? He had to find out. The next day, Chijioke decided to confront his uncle, Obayoma, who had always been kind to him. Obayoma was a respected elder in the village, known for his wisdom and strength. Chijioke had never suspected him of anything, but now, with Ugochukwu's words echoing in his mind, he wasn't so sure. Chijioke found Obayoma sitting outside his hut, his face full of concern as he saw Chijioke approaching. Chijioke, my boy, Obayoma said warmly. What brings you here today? I need to ask you something, Uncle Obayoma, Chijioke said, his voice steady. I need to know the truth. Was Ifeoma's death an accident? Did she discover something that led to her death? Obayoma's face changed. His smile faded, and his eyes grew distant. What are you talking about, Chijioke? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. What could she have discovered? She was a young girl, with no idea of the dangers that lie hidden in the world. Chijioke didn't back down. I need to know, uncle. The village is talking. They say Ifeoma saw something she shouldn't have, something dangerous. Did she discover something about you? About our family? Obayoma stood up suddenly, his face stern. You are asking dangerous questions, Chijioke, he said quietly. Some things are better left unknown. Do not go down this path. You are too young to understand. Chijioke's heart pounded in his chest. He could feel the weight of Obayoma's words, but they only made him more determined. What are you hiding, uncle? I will find out the truth, even if it means asking every villager. Obayoma's face turned pale, and for a moment, Chijioke thought he saw fear in his uncle's eyes. Do not make me say it, Chijioke. Some things are better left buried, Obayoma said softly, his voice filled with warning. Chijioke's suspicions grew. What was Obayoma hiding? Why was he so afraid? Later that evening, Chijioke visited the village storyteller, Mama Ezin, who had seen much in her long life. She was sitting outside her house, telling stories to a group of children. When Chijioke approached, she smiled and motioned for him to sit beside her. Mama Ezin, I need your help, Chijioke said, his voice quiet. I am searching for the truth about Ifeoma's death. Everyone says she discovered something before she died. Do you know what it was? Mama Ezin's eyes grew serious as she looked at him. There are many secrets in this village, Chijioke, she said. Some of them are old, and some are recent. But they all share one thing in common, they are dangerous to uncover. Chijioke leaned in closer. Please, Mama Ezin. I need to know. What did Ifeoma find out? Mama Ezin hesitated for a moment, then sighed. Ifeoma knew about a plot, Chijioke. A plot that involved your own family. She overheard something about the village's water source. People were stealing from it, using it for their own gain, and it was making the water unsafe for the villagers. But the one who was behind it was too powerful to stop. Chijioke's heart skipped a beat. His family. Stealing from the village. He could hardly believe it. Who is behind this? Chijioke asked, his voice shaking. Mama Ezin looked around cautiously before answering. I cannot say for sure. But Ifeoma knew too much, and that's why she had to be silenced. Chijioke felt a cold knot in his stomach. The truth was even more dangerous than he had imagined. He needed to find out who was responsible and stop them, but he had to be careful. The truth was out there, but it was hidden behind lies and fear. Chijioke's mind was racing. The discovery that Ifeoma had uncovered a plot involving the village's water supply shook him to the core. He had heard rumors about the water being tainted, but he never imagined that someone in the village, possibly even his own family, would be involved. He stood up, his heart heavy with the weight of Mama Ezin's words. Thank you, Mama Ezin, he said quietly. I will find the truth. Mama Ezin nodded solemnly. Be careful, Chijioke. The truth is a powerful thing, but it can also destroy. Chijioke left her house and walked through the village, his mind swirling with questions. Who could be stealing from the water source? Why had Ifeoma been silenced? And most importantly, what did this all have to do with his family? As he walked past the village well, he saw Obioma, his uncle, standing nearby, speaking to a few of the elders. Chijioke's eyes narrowed. Was his uncle involved in this? He had to find out. Chijioke hesitated for a moment but then walked towards them. When Obioma saw him approaching, he immediately excused himself from the elders and walked toward his nephew. Chijioke, what is troubling you now? Obioma asked, trying to sound calm, but Chijioke could see the tension in his eyes. I'm looking for answers, uncle, Chijioke said firmly. I'm not leaving until I get them. Obioma's face grew darker, and he looked over his shoulder to make sure the elders were out of earshot. You do not understand, Chijioke. There are things you are not ready to know. Chijioke clenched his fist. I'm ready to know everything, uncle. I need to know about Ifeoma and the water. Why is everyone so quiet about it? Obioma took a deep breath, his eyes flashing with something, anger, fear, or maybe guilt. He stepped closer to Chijioke. You're treading dangerous ground. Some things are better left buried, but it seems you will not listen. He lowered his voice, speaking only for Chijioke's ears. There are people who control the water here. They've been doing it for years, making money from it while the rest of the village suffers. But if you keep asking questions, it will not end well. Chijioke felt a surge of anger but kept his voice steady. Who are these people, uncle? Why are you protecting them? Obioma's face went pale. You think I am protecting them, he said, his voice a whisper. I am trying to protect you, Chijioke. This is bigger than you realize. Chijioke looked at him, his mind racing. Could his uncle really be involved? Could he have been part of this plot to steal from the water source? But before he could ask more questions, Obioma stepped back, his expression hardening. I will say no more. Do not pursue this any further, or it will only bring more pain. Chijioke watched as his uncle walked away, the words hanging in the air. His heart was heavy, but he knew what he had to do. He couldn't let this go. If his uncle was hiding something, Chijioke would find out. That night, Chijioke couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, thinking about all the pieces of the puzzle. Ifeoma had been silenced because she knew too much. Obioma was hiding something, but what was it? He needed help, and he knew exactly who to turn to. The next morning, he went back to Ugochukwu's hut. The man who sang at funerals, the one who seemed to know the truth when no one else did. Chijioke knocked on the door, and Ugochukwu answered with a knowing smile. You've come to me again, Chijioke, Ugochukwu said, his voice soft but full of understanding. I knew you would. The spirits are restless, and they have more to tell you. Chijioke took a deep breath. I need to know more, Ugochukwu. I've spoken to my uncle, and he won't tell me anything. He keeps saying I'm not ready, But I have to know. What is happening with the water? Why is everyone so afraid to talk about it? Ugochukwu studied him carefully. The water, yes. It has been poisoned in more ways than one. The thieves do not only steal the water. They control it. And the villagers, they are afraid to speak because they know the price they will pay if they do. Chijioke's heart pounded. Who are they, Ugochukwu? Who is doing this? Ugochukwu smiled faintly. The truth is never simple, Chijioke. But I will tell you this. The ones who steal the water are powerful. And the people you trust, even your own family, may not be who you think they are. Chijioke's stomach twisted. What do you mean? My family. Ugochukwu looked away, his eyes filled with sadness. The ones you trust are the ones who can hurt you the most. Be careful, Chijioke. The truth has a way of changing everything. Chijioke was silent for a moment, trying to process what Ugochukwu had said. He knew the village was hiding secrets, but now it seemed like those secrets were buried deeper than he had imagined. He had to find out more, no matter what it cost him. I will keep asking, Ugochukwu, Chijioke said, his voice firm. I will find out the truth, even if I have to uncover the darkest secrets of this village. Ugochukwu nodded slowly. I know you will, Chijioke. But remember, the dead watch over you. They will guide you, but they will also test you. And the more you uncover, the more dangerous it becomes. Chijioke nodded. He was ready. He had to be. He couldn't let Ifeoma's death be in vain, and he couldn't ignore the growing sense that his own family might be involved in something far darker than he had ever imagined. That evening, Chijioke decided to go to the village's water source. It was said to be deep in the forest, far from the village center, and few people dared to go there. The place was surrounded by rumors, stories of strange happenings and hidden dangers. But Chijioke knew he had to face it if he was going to get the answers he needed. He set out alone, the moonlight guiding his way through the thick trees. The deeper he went into the forest, the more tense he became. Every rustle of the leaves, every creak of a branch felt like it was leading him into the unknown. Finally, he reached the water source, a large, clear stream that flowed from a deep spring hidden in the heart of the forest. The water sparkled under the moonlight, but there was something unsettling about it. Chijioke knelt by the edge, staring at the water. He could almost feel the presence of something watching him. Just then, he heard a sound behind him. Chijioke spun around, but there was no one there. His heart raced. He was not alone. Chijioke's breath quickened as he stood up, scanning the dark forest around him. The rustling of the leaves grew louder, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. He wasn't alone. Someone, or something, was watching him. He turned back to the stream, his heart pounding in his chest. His eyes narrowed as he noticed something in the water, something moving beneath the surface. It wasn't the gentle flow of the stream, there was a strange current, as if something was pulling the water in a different direction. He stepped closer, his feet crunching on the dry leaves beneath him. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. Chijioke. Chijioke froze. The voice wasn't loud, but it was clear and unmistakable. He turned quickly, but no one was there. The voice had come from the direction of the water. He took a step back, his mind racing. Was it a spirit? Could it be Ifeoma or Elder is reaching out to him? Who's there? Chijioke called out, his voice trembling. A figure emerged from the shadows near the water's edge. It was a man, tall and cloaked in dark robes. His face was hidden in the shadows, but his eyes glowed with an eerie light. I am the one who watches over the water, the man said, his voice deep and echoing. I have been waiting for you. Chijioke took a step back, his fear growing. Who are you? What do you want? The man didn't respond immediately. Instead, he gestured to the water. You've come to ask about the water, and I see you have already learned more than you should. But there are things that must remain hidden, Chijioke. Chijioke's pulse quickened. You're the one who's been stealing the water, aren't you? He demanded, his voice steady despite the fear that gripped his chest. The man laughed softly, a cold, unsettling sound. I am not the thief, Chijioke. I protect what has been taken. The water, the life of this village, has been controlled for years. But the ones who seek power have no idea what they've awakened. Chijioke's mind spun. Who are these people? Why would they control the water? And why is everyone so afraid to speak? The figure stepped closer, his eyes glowing even brighter. The village has always lived in fear, Chijioke. Fear of the truth. Fear of the ones who control the flow of life itself. Your uncle, Obioma, and others, they are part of a secret that has been passed down for generations. But Ifeoma was the one who came too close to uncovering it. She had to be silenced. Chijioke's heart sank. His uncle was involved. He had feared it, but hearing it from the stranger confirmed everything. What secret? What are they hiding? The figure's gaze hardened. The water is not just a source of life, it is a source of power. Those who control it can control the village, its people, its future. But there is something darker at play. The water hides a deeper truth, one that could destroy everything. Chijioke's legs felt weak beneath him, but his resolve only grew stronger. I can't let this happen, he said, his voice determined. I have to stop them. The figure nodded slowly. You have a choice, Chijioke. You can continue to dig, to uncover the truth, but know this, the more you learn, the more danger you bring upon yourself and your family. The ones behind this are powerful, and they will stop at nothing to protect their secrets. I don't care, Chijioke replied firmly. I can't live with the lies. I have to make things right. The figure sighed, as if in pity. You are brave, Chijioke, but bravery is not enough when faced with the truth. Remember this, the truth has a way of consuming everything it touches. With those final words, the figure turned and vanished into the shadows, leaving Chijioke standing by the stream, his heart heavy with the weight of the knowledge he had just uncovered. The next day, Chijioke confronted his uncle Obioma. There were no more games, no more pretending. He had the truth now, and he would not back down. Uncle, I know everything, Chijioke said, standing tall in front of Obioma. I know what you've been hiding. You and the others have been stealing the water. But more than that, you've been controlling the village's future. Obioma's face went pale. Chijioke, you don't understand. It's not as simple as you think. It is simple, Uncle, Chijioke said, his voice full of conviction. You've been lying to everyone. You killed Ifeoma because she was close to the truth. You silenced her, but now I know. And I won't stop until everyone knows the truth. Obioma's face twisted with fear and anger. You don't know what you're asking for, Chijioke. You're playing with forces you don't understand. I'm done being afraid, Chijioke said, his voice steady. It's time for the truth to come out. The village deserves to know. Obioma's eyes flickered with guilt, but then his face hardened. If you expose us, there will be consequences. You're asking for trouble. I don't care about the consequences, Chijioke said firmly. I care about the truth. And I'll make sure it's known. Chijioke left his uncle's hut, his heart heavy but resolute. He knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but he had come too far to turn back now. With the truth in his hands, he would stand against the lies that had controlled the village for so long. The next morning, Chijioke gathered the villagers. One by one, they came to hear what he had to say. As he spoke, he revealed everything, the plot to steal the water, the secret that had been buried for years, and the power that had been controlling them all. The villagers listened in shock as the truth poured out. Some cried, some were angry, but all of them were stunned. The weight of the lies had finally been lifted. In the end, Chijioke's bravery brought justice to the village. Obioma and the others who had been part of the scheme were held accountable. The water source was freed from their control, and the village began to heal. As for Chijioke, he had uncovered the truth, but it had come at a cost. The village would never be the same, and neither would he. But he knew that he had done the right thing. The dead had been heard, and the living could finally breathe freely. And in the quiet moments, when the wind whispered through the trees, Chijioke could still hear the faint sound of a song, Ugochukwu's song, echoing in the distance. The truth had set them free. Thank you so much for watching. If you got to this point, please give this video a thumbs up. It will help grow my small YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet to my YouTube channel, please do well to subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you get notified when I post more interesting content like this. Do well to go through my channel if you haven't done so. I have more interesting videos and interesting topics and stories on my channel. Leave a comment in this video, under this video, and let me know your thoughts about this video. See you guys in my next video. Bye.